We all want to get lean, we all want to lose fat and eventually reveal our abs, right? We all want to reveal that six pack. It's something that the whole world really desires, both men and women. There's a dark side of going on this journey that not many people talk about. They're always talking about how great it is and how amazing it is once you get there. And having achieved that now, I can say that yes, it is an amazing experience when you get there, but really there's a lot of struggle that you have to go through, and there's a lot of obstacles you're going to encounter along the way. And this isn't really a video to sort of dissuade you or try to get you to reconsider you wanting a six pack or getting shredded, as much as it is me just trying to help you and make you aware of some of the things that you're going to encounter so that you don't think that you're crazy, right? So you don't think that you're insane, and so that you don't give up. As a teenager, I always wanted to have a six pack, right? We're constantly being sort of programmed by social media, by magazines, the internet. But it's something that I've always wanted from my years as a teenager, but never really had the sort of motivation or focus to go after it because I was always playing video games and distracted with all these other easier things to really go after it. So it wasn't recently until these past 2 years that I went on a journey starting from being skinny fat to, eventually getting jacked and cutting down to the point where I had a six pack. I did basically a recomp, so I was losing a little bit of fat and building a decent amount of muscle because of newbie gains. And it was coming around through winter, and then spring hit, and I realized, all right, well, I got to get out of this sort of maintenance recomp phase because you don't want to stay in it for too long, right? And so I had to decide, am I going to bulk or am I going to cut? For me, it made more sense to go for a cut because I had been building up some muscle all this time, and I wanted to kind of see what I had actually built by cutting down, losing that fat. And also summer was coming up. So I realized, I'm just going to go for a cut right now and just go through summer instead of going into a bulk. Ideally, it would have been nice to go into a bulk and build more muscle first before cutting, but I decided that I was just going to go for the cut because it was summertime. And so that's when my journey began. So the first thing I really had to deal with when going on this journey was the conflicting information that's all over the internet, right? There's a web of lies throughout the fitness industry about losing belly fat, about getting a six pack, and it's so complicated, and there's so many things that people complicate. It's just ridiculous. And then you've got so many people selling snake oil to you. Oh, just take these supplements, these fat burner supplements. Oh, just get on this specific diet and this will work for you. But at the end of the day, all of those are just distractions from what you really need to be focused on, which is just simply two things, right? There's two things that you need to be focused on. That is, number one, being in a calorie deficit, right? Being in a calorie deficit, and number two, training your abs enough so that they actually pop, so that when you cut down, you don't just have skinny, weak abs. You've actually trained them and they do pop a bit. So that's the first thing that you have to contend with when you want to go on this journey of getting a six pack, is dealing with these sort of web of lies and all the snake oil that's trying to be sold to you on these special sort of magic supplements that are going to help you get your six pack. Then you have to actually deal with being in a calorie deficit, because calorie deficit is king. That's what's going to get you to where you want to go. But this is so far from easy that it's not even funny. Now, for some people, it's easy for them to lose weight, okay? For me, I'm kind of in the middle. It's not like super easy for me to gain a ton of weight, but it's also not super easy for me to lose a ton of weight. So I'm kind of in the middle. And once you have to understand something is, when you get down to the point of being able to have a six pack, you are at unnaturally low levels of body fat. Your body does not want this. It's out of equilibrium with how your body normally operates. You're messing everything up by doing this. This is not a natural sort of thing that you would ever have tried to do. This is not a natural thing that our ancestors would have ever tried to do. There's really no reason to do it besides it's just a modern thing, a modern phenomenon where people, want to do it for vanity metrics or just for self-confidence or whatever. So it's not a natural thing to do. So your body is going to naturally resist you. And there's a lot of negative side effects of being in a calorie deficit, to the point where you actually can see your abs. So obviously the first thing is the constant measuring, right? You need to be measuring your food so that you know how many calories you're taking in every day. You need to be measuring your macros. You're gonna have to be measuring your steps to make sure you're actually moving enough, because as you get lower and lower and lower in terms of body fat, you have to either eat less, right? So you have to eat less food so that your body keeps burning that fat, or you need to move more, aka take more steps. So for me, during my journey, I got to the point where I was taking 10,000 steps, 11,000 steps, and I wasn't on that many calories because I hadn't gone on a proper bulk before. So I was cutting down, to a pretty low amount of calories. And so that constant tracking really starts to kind of weigh on you after doing this for months and months. So this can really affect your mental health. If you think about it, imagine going out to eat. You're going out with your friends, your family, having a great time. You go out to eat, you eat a bunch of food. The next day you wake up, you've gained, 2-4 pounds, and you're thinking to yourself, what the heck did I do? Why did I do that? You maybe have feelings of regret, shame, guilt, and this starts to really affect and play on your mind and your sort of mental health, and it can really affect your social life. So all the social events you used to go to with your friends and family, now you start thinking about, wait, can I actually do that? Am I going to get caught up in, either drinking or eating too much? And it's this constant sort of thing in your mind that you have to think about. Is it going to be okay for me to go here because I know that this might happen with this person, or we might be having a family dinner over here. And so it really starts to actually affect your social life to where you may find you're actually staying in more. You're actually not really going out and hanging out with people per se. Now, I'm not saying that's a bad thing, and you can definitely counter this by hanging out with people in different situations that don't really have to do with food, but it's definitely something to think about, and it's definitely something to think about if you're someone who goes out a lot at night, you're someone who enjoys nightlife, or you're someone who enjoys getting together with people and eating at social gatherings. This is going to be a big obstacle that you have to overcome because you're going to have to be different from everybody else, and you're going to stand out. Because like I said before, the mental health aspect of this is huge. The mind aspect of this is really everything. If you're going to these social events and you start really messing up, you're going to start dealing with those feelings of disappointment in yourself. You're going to start feeling, these feelings of, losing your self-esteem because you think that you're not capable of doing this. And so it really can trick your mind into thinking that you aren't capable of actually losing weight. You can't actually do it. You can't actually get down to the point where you have that physique that you want to have because you keep messing up. When in reality, what it is you're around all these different social situations that are kind of pushing you into it. And so this is the sort of conflict that you might deal with along your journey, and it's definitely something I experienced. So then on top of it, as you start to get lower and lower and lower and closer to that sort of idea that you have of this great dream physique where you've got this six-pack, you start to notice that your energy is getting worse. Your energy levels are getting lower. You start to have this sort of lower vibration where you're more tired, you seem more irritable, and what's happening is, since you're restricting your body of the calories that it needs, it's messing up your hormones, and those hormones are causing emotional changes, right? You might be dealing with these sort of feelings where you're hungry all the time, and that makes you irritable, right? They call it hangry. So you might be dealing with that. You might be dealing with not getting enough protein or fats for your muscle building endeavors, or just for your hormones, right? And so everything starts to get fucking crazy. You might getting into more fights with people, right? Because you're more irritable and angry. You might just having a shorter temper. Your relationships could literally suffer from you trying to go down this path. I'm telling you right now, there were times where I was extremely irritable and just rude, and kind of just got into actual fights with people that I knew, and arguments, because of the fact that I was cutting myself off from what my body technically needed, and it was messing up my hormones and affecting my emotions, right? So be aware of that as you go down this journey. You also find as you lose weight, your frame is going to become smaller, especially as a guy. If you're someone who likes to have a big frame and kind of a more bulky sort of look, you will start to lose that as you're cutting down. You're going to look smaller and smaller and smaller. And when you're in clothes, sometimes people won't even know that you lift, right? You might have been lifting for a year now. You might have been lifting for 6 months, 2 years, I don't know, a few years. People might not even really be able to tell that you've been lifting, because when you're in your clothes, you look smaller because you've lost so much weight in order to get that six-pack to show. So you have to be aware that you're not going to be this big, huge, bulky guy walking around with a six-pack like you see on social media, because social media deceives us into thinking that the sort of outliers that you see are reality, when in reality, that's not what happens. If you're going to stay natural and you're going to go down this path, you're going to have a six-pack. Yes, it's amazing, but you're also going to be a lot smaller in terms of your frame. You're not going to be one of these huge jack guys with a six-pack unless you're willing to hop on steroids. So now you're dealing with the fact that people can't even tell you lift, you're looking smaller, you're feeling weaker. Now you have to contend with the fact that when you're in the gym lifting weights, this is not the time of growth. This is not the time of improving your lifts. This is not the time of trying to get PRs. I was able to get some PRs in the beginning, but towards the end, as I was literally cutting down to that six-pack and getting really low level of body fat, I was doing everything I could do just to maintain my shit in the gym, bro. I was literally doing anything I could do just to maintain my lifts and not slide backwards. Because you have to think, you're not giving your body any nutrients or enough protein or anything to really grow. It can't grow. It can't actually lift heavier weights because you're stuck in this cycle of cutting down and getting smaller and smaller and weighing less and less. So as you weigh less and less, your lifts could potentially go down. Again, this affects your self-esteem. This affects your self-confidence, because now your lifts in the gym are literally going down. And so it's weird because you're working toward this goal that you really want, but in order to get it, you have to sacrifice a lot of things over here, right? What you want is over here, and what you have to give up is all this stuff over here, and it's a lot to give up. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, let's say you make it through all that. Let's say you make it through all the shit that I talked about. You've managed to get all of your shit under control, your macros, tracking your steps, your social life, your mindset, all these things, you're dealing with that. Now, let's say you get to the point where you're low enough body to have your six pack, and you find out that you happen to be one of these people. You happen to be one of these people who just have shitty, bad six pack genetics. You get down to this point and you find out, oh, actually, I don't have a six pack, I have a four pack. Oh, actually, I just cut down and my abs, they don't line up at all. It's all twisted, it's all weird, it's all off-centered. How are you going to feel about that? Are you going to be able to handle that? Because that's literally what you're looking at here. This could be the case, right? Now, you will have abs. Everyone has abs. But be aware, you might not look like your favorite influencer, right? You might not look like your favorite influencer. You might not have that perfect six pack that you want to have, or that even that eight pack, or whatever the hell you're trying to go for. You might just have a four pack. So are you good with that? Are you able to handle going through all this for that to potentially be the case? Because that was something that I considered halfway through, and I was like, damn, man, I don't know if I want to go through this, because I might not even have like a decent six pack. What if I get down and it's not good? Especially if you haven't trained. If you haven't trained your six pack, or you haven't trained your abs sufficiently, you might just have very small, underdeveloped abs, and you get down to this point and it wasn't what you thought it was going to be. You also have to keep in mind that if this is your first cut, you aren't going to have like a crazy look usually on your first cut, right? Unless you're a genetic outlier. Most of us on our first cut are just going to look like, wow, like pretty good, yeah, but you're not going to look insanely jacked because you haven't built enough muscle yet. Especially if you did what I did, where you're kind of either going for recomp or maintenance first and then you're moving into the cut instead of going on a full-fledged bulk first. You're not going to look like some crazy guy on IG. Like, it's just not going to happen, bro. So be aware of that. Be aware that, yes, you're going to look 10 times better than you used to. You're going to look amazing compared to your old pictures, but you're not going to probably look like the guy that you really look up to on social media, because they've gone through multiple cut and bulk cycles. They've been training a lot longer than you, and most likely they're on roids. Just be aware of this, because it can lead to body dysmorphia. You can think that you're not good enough. In your mind, you can start to think, oh, I'm not as big as that guy, or oh, that guy's more jacked than me. And you start to devalue yourself. You start to devalue the things that you've accomplished and all the hard work that you've put in, because you don't compare to the next guy. So comparison is going to be the thief of your joy. It's going to be the thief of your contentness and happiness for what you've achieved in this life. And don't let that ruin it for you, because we all look different. We all have slightly different genetics. We all come from different places. And so just because you don't have that ideal physique that you thought you would have in your mind, that doesn't mean that you haven't made significant progress. That doesn't mean that you haven't completely changed your life and improved your health. So to that point about comparison, a lot of people won't care that you have a six pack. If you're doing this, really, if you really think about it, if you're journaling about this and you really think that the main reason you're doing this is for the social validation, it's probably not something that you should do, because 9 out of 10 people are just going to be like, oh, great, yeah, you have a great physique, cool, moving on. You know what I mean? It's not going to be some magic pill that changes everything for you, that immediately your life is like, whoa, like the clouds open up, the sun comes down, shines upon you, and you like fly up into the heavens. You know what I mean? It's not going to be some crazy thing where everything just immediately changes for you and life is on easy mode. So you have to be aware of that. And I would say, yes, it definitely does make you more attractive. I've noticed, absolutely, when you're on the beach. You're way more attractive. You have your shirt off. However, how much of that is due to just the fact that you're now more confident with yourself? You're more disciplined than you used to be. You just gone through this crazy journey of all this fat loss. That could just be the fact of it, is that you're way more confident than you were before, and you feel more self-centered and you feel proud of your achievements. So that could just be a huge part of why you come off as more attractive. I think obviously the six-pack element definitely has something to it, where it shows the discipline, and it does make you one of those rare people who have a six-pack and has gone through this. So if you're looking to attract and be more attractive to the opposite sex, this will definitely help you. Obviously losing fat, because it makes you more healthier. So that's a no-brainer. But it's not going to change everything in terms of all your social dynamics. It's not going to make you, the top guy and everything, and you think you're going to be so amazing. It's definitely obviously giving you an edge, but it's giving you an edge in terms of, how you look, but also your discipline and everything. But it's not going to completely change everything for you. That's why most people don't have a six pack because they aren't willing to go through these things. This is probably one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. And if I could go back, instead of suffering through months and months and months and months, messing up, not knowing what I was doing, I would have absolutely joined a community or some group or found mentorship so that I could have gotten this done faster, right? Because the information is easy. Implementing the information is the hardest part. Actually doing it and doing it effectively without wasting a ton of time, that's where it gets really difficult. So I'd highly recommend that you think about that. Find someone or a community or group or something that could possibly help you through this, that you could join, you could relate with other people doing this. Because if you're the only one on this journey going through all this, it's going to be fucking way harder. Like for me, it was so much harder doing this by myself because no one else was really doing it. And I almost quit multiple times. And I went through a lot more issues that I wouldn't have had to gone through if I had other people I could have talked to who were also on the same goal as me. Let me know down in the comments what you're struggling with trying to lose fat. Let me know in the comments what you're struggling with in terms of trying to get your dream physique. What are the hardest things that you're kind of going through at this moment? Thank you for watching. I hope you found this useful, and I will see you in the next video.